confusing when this happens. Oh, there you are.
There I am.
Yay.
Can you
Oh
hear
my
me
gosh.
okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. I'm so sorry. It's like always different, I feel like, to join in. So that is just an Instagram thing.
Yeah, I am so sorry. I actually had like all of my microphone and everything kind of turned off and privacy stuff turned off. And I'm like, I thought I enabled everything and then it kept wanting me to enable the microphone. So
Oh no, that's not your
yeah,
fault at
sorry
all,
about that,
honestly.
everybody.
It's okay. It's just a little glitch. Sometimes that happens. It's not a big deal at all.
Yeah. All right. So did I miss
So it's
anything?
great to have you. We're so happy to have you here today.
Awesome.
You
Well, I
want to,
can't wait to talk about dog nails. It's one of my favorite topics in the entire world. So
I have so loved to read your posts and all of the knowledge and information that you have out on this topic. It has really taught me so much this week. So thank you for
awesome.
spending the time to put all of it together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I think quite a few people in the big dog world know who Big Dog Mom is, but that's
Yep.
essentially who I am. So I have raised large and giant breed dogs my entire life, and
Wow.
have two Mastiffs now. So feel like I've gained a number of years of experience that I can now share with the larger big dog owning community. And so just one of the areas through my own personal experience with a Mastiff that was extraordinarily fearful about getting her nails trimmed kind of set me on, so this is about 20 years ago, and
Wow.
set me on this path of kind of learning and figuring out how can I manage to clip a dog's nails without them running in the other room or requiring, my husband at the time to hold her down. It just was the whole process I hated. And I just thought there has got to be a better way. So set out after, trial and error, trying to figure out how to do it without force. I just wanted to sit and have her enjoy having her nails trimmed. So that's been, a few decades in the making, but I feel like now I have a lot of knowledge that can really help big dog owners, especially because, as you and I both know, big dog size does matter. And that's one of my taglines. I really believe that it's a unique thing that we have to deal with when it comes to trimming our dog's nails, because it's not as easy as just holding the dog in your arms, and the confinement doesn't work as well. And not only that, but it's cruel in a lot of ways. But I guess what I would just say is that I think we are uniquely interested in this topic of force and fear-free nail trimming. So hopefully we can get into some of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I totally agree. And with them being large and giant dogs, it's just so crucial, as I've learned from you and other experts this weekend through the process of having Great Danes myself, just that they don't have long nails. And so it's such a big problem, but yet so for so many people it's so hard to, it seems so small and minuscule, but it is a big problem for a lot of people, but it's so important for their joints and just the way that they walk and move and play and stuff, so that we keep them short. So
it's no different than if we have foot problems and how much that impacts every minute of every day of your life. If you're a mobile person, every step you take, it's a reminder of the pain you're in, or the awkwardness, or you having to accommodate that being uncomfortable. And so it's no different with our dogs, for sure.
Like having like an ingrown toenail or something, like it's the worst. So
Yep.
Well, okay, so today we're going to talk about some myths, some kind of statements that we hear often that you sort of have, some knowledge surrounding. So the first one being, my dog's nails, I'm just going to read it here. My dog's nails are short enough. They wear down naturally outside, so they don't need to be cut.
Yeah, this one.
If someone said that to you.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have said that to me, which is why I think that's one of the most frequently things that I hear. And that is, especially dogs that are on concrete a lot, people will think, oh, they're good enough. But quite honestly, my rule of thumb, and it's not just my rule, but really based on evidence and research is that if your dog's nails are touching the floor at all, they're too long. So the idea that your dog is going to wear down all of his nails with just walking around is a complete myth, because not only they can't get their dew claw, because that's not even touching the ground, but in addition, they're not really coming in contact with all of the nails. So the nails on the sides of the paw aren't going to be worn down. So the one criteria, so the nails shouldn't touch the ground. The nails, you shouldn't hear the nails when the dog is walking. The nails should really be, as the dog's paw is on the ground, the nails shouldn't come in any contact when the dog has a flat paw on a level ground. The nails should be well up off of there. And so yeah, there's a number of reasons why a dog doesn't normally wear down all of his or her nails just by existing. Now, they can wear down some, and I think sometimes people will see that and be like, oh, they're good enough. But quite honestly, I think there's a lot to be said for the time that you spend in trimming a dog's nails that goes beyond just the nail length itself. It's the time, the conditioning, the trust that you start to build with your dog, etc. But yeah, dogs don't generally wear down all of their nails naturally. They all need to be cut at some point, and I argue weekly at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, I see, and I read this on your website at some point this week. Jackie in the comments said, if I hear just a click on my floor when they walk, I cringe. And I remember reading that on your blog at some point.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah. There's nothing worse. And honestly, when my dog's nails even just slightly hook a little bit, I'm like, oh, you need a nail trim. It's too much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this question kind of goes along with the question that we just received in the comments. So this is, the statement would be, I'm so afraid of hitting the quick and causing my dog extreme pain that I just send my dog to the vet to trim his nails.
Yeah, the thing that I would say, first and foremost, for so many people that are fearful about the quick, is that there's a lot of myths surrounding the quick that for many, not all, but for many, it's an irrational fear. And I think most humans can agree that, yeah, it's all about me. It's not even my dog that's necessarily afraid. I'm just worried. So the couple of things I would say, first of all, when you hit the quick, most of the time, it's not like a giant gushing bleed, right? You nicked it a little bit. It's a little bit of blood, a little bit of quick stop, and you can stop the bleeding. It hurts the dog for a second. It's not like this throbbing, awful pain that then stays with your dog. It's like a pinch or, it's just a sudden, quick, the dog feels it because there's nerve endings in there. So so they may flinch, they may pull away. My biggest tip as it relates to the quick is if you ever do hit the quick, that you just literally don't react. It's kind of hard to do, but if I were to, so Junior's laying right here. If I were to clip his quick, I would just sort of be really calm. I might get some quick stop out and just dab a little bit on his nail, just sort of resume. I probably would leave that nail alone and then resume. And now if he got up and walked away, then I would say, well, we're probably done for the day. But I would just not react. I think that's my biggest tip as it relates to the quick. But the people that end up sending their dog away, what I would say is, number one, I understand why you're doing it, and I get that. You have to get over your own fear first before you can then sit down with your dog. But I would say the more you can just separate your emotions from the act of nail trimming and literally think about nail trimming as an action and a response versus like the dog is being good or bad, you're rewarding with treats. It's not about that. With dogs, the best way to tackle trimming is to use, a Dremel, and that can help with a quick issue too, but just to use the action of trimming and the reaction, meaning the treat or what have you. So they get kind of conditioned to not fearing it. But I would say, if you're taking the dog to like a groomer or a vet tech, often it's a much more traumatic experience than just if you happen to hit the quick. Generally speaking. And I'm not saying that vets and groomers don't have a place. Of course they do. But
Right. A lot of dogs are scared of the vet in the first place, so
Right.
it's scary going into it.
Well,
Yeah.
and especially now where so many aren't even letting the owners go in with them. So
Hmm.
I can only imagine. And I've had a fearful dog, really fearful dog, lots of issues in the past, a mastiff. And I cannot imagine having to send him in without me in there. And for them to trim his nails would just be like, oh yeah.
Right.
But the last thing I would just say really quickly about that is that I would highly encourage you to get used to and to learn how to use a Dremel
Hmm.
versus a nail clipper. Because with
Hmm.
a clipper, and this might be one of the other questions that you have, like which tool to use, and that is the clipper with a large dog's nails, right? The nails are usually really big, really hard, and often black, right? So not
Hmm.
all dogs have black nails, but when you use the clipper, you have to clip like on a single nail. You might, instead of doing one fell swoop, right,
Hmm.
of the clipper, which I call like the clip and pray method. The better way to do it is just to take tiny little pieces off and sort of
Right.
shave around the nail. But even with that, your likelihood of hitting the quick with a nail clipper versus the Dremel is higher because you
Right.
still are doing a little bit of that clip and pray method, as I call it. The
Hmm.
Dremel just takes tiny little shavings off. And in most dogs, and on my blog and on my YouTube channel, I show close-ups of trimming a black dog's nails and where the quick is. I don't have a dog. I have a dog laying behind me.
Oh,
So I was thinking if Sully would come here, I could show. But
yeah.
on my blog and on my YouTube channel, you can see where the quick is. And when you're using a Dremel, you can usually see the quick before you ever hit it.
Right.
And the more frequently you trim, the less likely you will be to hit the quick. Because what happens is, and this is critical for people to understand as it relates to dog nails, and this is the last point I'll make, is that as you're trimming, each time you trim, if you get right up to the quick, so say this is the dog's nail and this is the quick, right? It's right there
Hmm.
at the end. When you trim right up to the end of that quick, the quick starts to recede back. So every
Hmm.
time you clip, you want to get right up to that quick. And
Hmm.
so the quick will recede on its own.
Right.
And that's how you ultimately shorten. But if you never get close to the quick just keeps growing. And I don't know if
Right.
my fingers were helpful, but
No,
hopefully
yes,
that makes
totally.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what that like that question that we got in the chat that said you know, I feel as though I'm getting close to the quick. Um, it's just a matter of uh, as often as you can. I think that's the biggest thing for me in not sending my dogs to the vet, as well as I do it so often. Like I couldn't possibly send them to the vet like all the time. And if I take a week or 2 weeks off from a very quick file with the Dremel, it's less like they're less desirable for them to want to do it because they're not, they forgot about the sound or whatever. So
Yeah.
for me,
Yep.
it's easier to do it every 3 or 4 days, just really quickly rather than making it a big event once a month or something.
Right. Yep. They do kind of forget it, and that it has to do with conditioning. So
Right.
it's no different than anything else that you're conditioning your dog to do. Training. I mean, oftentimes you can train things using sort of a classical conditioning method, but the longer you go without reinforcing it, the more they do forget it. And if
Right.
something as potentially inherently scary as the sound of a Dremel, for example, if they don't do it
Right.
for a while, you're exactly right. So I agree with you. I think frequency absolutely matters for sure.
Right. Right. So that's great information about the Dremel. And then with the quick, like with going all kind of as close to the quick as possible. Um, I get that I've understood that you get a lot of questions about dogs that have black nails.
Yeah.
And if, there are people that might make statements that their dog has a black nail and they don't know how to find the quick in a black nail. Do you have any
Yeah.
thoughts about?
Yep. And I think that it kind of goes with that fear of the quick, that it's compounded when the dog's nails are black. Although I will say Junior has mostly light nails, which are not great in a Mastiff, but he does. And you can't, I can see Sully's quick better than I can see Junior's. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can. And truly, I think if you're getting right up to the quick, you'll see it's like a dark spot. And like I said,
Right.
on my YouTube channel and on the blog, there's pictures that are close up so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But you'll see like the nail, it's similar to our nail where the top of it has kind of a lighter color. And then in the center, it's really dark. And the closer you are to the quick, right, if you were to go beyond that, then that would be blood. But it's black right in the center. And it's kind of a soft part. So the dog's nails kind of are like U-shaped, and then it's a dark center. So yeah, that's what I would say. But truly, and even if you have black nails, it would just be that frequency piece. So the more often you do it, the better, and the quicker that quick is going to recede. The problem with so many people relying on vet techs or groomers is that, well, two things. Number one, it's really expensive for big dog owners to do that because the cost of grooming a larger giant breed dog is substantially higher than a small dog. But beyond that, you're probably only taking them monthly. So not only is it emotionally traumatic for them, but they often don't clip them enough to even get near the quick. So they're just trimming like the hook part of the nail off, which isn't near short enough. So when you do it at home, it really is better to just, little bits at a time. And if you use the Dremel, it's pretty easy to see where the quick is before you ever even come close to hitting it. And the dog will usually react even if you come close. Like I'm pretty close on a couple of Sully's nails, and when I get there, he'll feel the heat of the Dremel even, and he'll be like, whoa. So but he never gets up. I mean, it doesn't really react other than I just don't trim that nail. So
okay. So how did you get them to get to this place? So how can I get my dog to stop pulling his paws away, running away, or simply being afraid when I want to trim his nails?
Yeah, and I've talked about a few of the concepts already. We've kind of covered a few of them already. The thing that I would say first and foremost, if you want a dog that just truly loves getting his or her nails trimmed, is really just taking your emotions out of it. That literally it's not about you. And if your dog is afraid, often it's because you are presenting either the clipper or the clipper or the Dremel with like anticipation and anxiety. In other words, oftentimes people will be like, okay, it's time to trim nails, and they get all worried and they try to coax their dog, and it's a whole thing. My tip, if that's what you find yourself doing, where you have to like get geared up and you have to get another person, or you have to get reinforcements to get the dog to stay, and all of the things that we do, I would just say sit in the middle of the room with, your Dremel or your clipper, and just literally don't react. Have some treats. And then if the dog comes over to you, give him a treat. I would like go super duper slow. And it doesn't matter what the dog does at all. I never confine. So that's another tip. Don't ever, confine your dog or restrict his or her movement in any way. So there is research. I'll just provide this quick little tidbit. There is research where they showed dogs that were confined, and I want to say it was Pavlov's research of all things. So I have a little Pavlov shirt on. Nice. It was his research where he actually showed that dogs that had their movement confined, so they had, it's cruel, but nonetheless, they changed them at their feet, and it just restricted their movement. And that no matter how hungry they were, how good the food, no matter what the enticement was, the only thing that dog thought about was getting free. So if say you're going in a room and you're shutting a door, the dog doesn't have freedom of movement. If you're leashing your dog or confining him in some way so that the dog can't get away. I had a friend who actually, they would go in the bathroom, so a small, tiny space, and the dog just was flipped out all the time and just learned to really hate getting her nails trimmed. So that's the first thing. Like, you just don't restrict your dog at all. Take your emotions out of it. And yes, it will take time. And that's the other piece, that you just need to be really patient.
Mm-hmm.
So to get my Mastiff, so I'll circle back to what I talked about at the very beginning. So my 170-pound female Mastiff, the first one I had years ago, about 20 years ago, she just hated it. My husband had to, like, you know, pin her down, and it was a whole thing to trim her nails. Well, I eventually got her to the point, and it took several months, but I eventually got her to the point where she would just lay, you know, she would see the clipper come out, because I didn't have a Dremel at the time. She would see the clipper come out, and she would just lay down, kind of play dead, and hand me a paw. And it was just a non-issue. And it really was because I think I was just patient. I allowed her to just do what she was comfortable with. I never pushed her. And so I think, and then used, you know, treats of some sort to just not distract and not to coerce her, but as a response to the action of trimming. And so that's kind of the other piece of it, is that using treats liberally will really help. And again, it's not, I hate those things where they'll show like the dog licking peanut butter off of the wall or something to that effect. A lot of people use those, but I feel like that's not really, that's just distracting the dog. And truly, if the food isn't good enough, the dog is fearful. So, you know, again, you're confining them. So I feel like it's much better to just say, you know, I touch your foot with a Dremel and I give you a treat. And so every time there's any interaction with the clipper or the Dremel, there's a treat that follows it. And that really is just, you know, have patience. It can definitely work. I believe all dogs, nearly all, can learn to love having their nails trimmed. So yeah, awesome. I think you just have to believe, you know, I talk about in the one post, just think of the end in mind. You know, it's the Franklin Covey thing, right? Begin with the end in mind. Know that your dog has potential. And really, it's not about you, it's about the dog. And your relationship, building that trust with them. And a lot of times people will have, the dog is already fearful and they've already learned to hate it. They've already, you know, broken that trust with their owner in this way. And so it does take time, just like humans, to build that trust back and to say, you know, when you see this Dremel, it's not a big scary thing. It actually is wonderful. And I'd like to just sit down and just be loving, you know, and the dog can learn that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Oh yes, for sure. You've been so helpful. So helpful.
Awesome.
So, yeah, so is there anything in just kind of in wrapping up like that you'd like to add? So like if someone, you know, is listening in and they're, you know, it is very hard. It's a hard process and it's a lot of work and patience and time and commitment for, you know, someone whose dog is fearful of a Dremel or clippers. So what would be like your why? Like, why do we as giant breed and large breed owners have this responsibility?
Yeah. And I think that's a great place to end, is just, we do. It is a fact of big dog ownership, is that your dog's health is your responsibility. It's not the vet techs and it's not the groomers. And so a part of that is their nail health, which is intricately, I didn't say that word right, but deeply involved, right, interconnected with their health in so many other areas, not only emotionally, as we've touched on, but physically, their orthopedic health, first and foremost, is involved. So as you have a puppy, I mean, truly, if you have a puppy, start early. You know, prevent those orthopedic issues early on, and you can easily with trimming frequently. But yeah, I think I would just want to leave people with, it is definitely your responsibility and it can be done. I just want people to feel empowered. I do have an online course that helps walk dog owners through. It's not open for enrollment yet, but you can get on the waiting list when I reopen. And
yeah, I saw that. It looks great. You provide great resources for large and giant breed dog owners. You've done a lot of work piloting this info, so the course looks great. You can find it on our website, and I'll be linking your username in the caption here so you guys can follow, and you know, everybody who sees this can go follow, and tons of good information that I personally myself have loved learning from you this week, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I will be doing more like live sessions, probably on my YouTube channel. I think, because I do think there's a need to just kind of watch somebody do it. And I feel like that helps me. So I'll be doing more of that too, so they can follow me there as well.
Yeah, that would be
But
great. Yeah, we'd love to watch. We
awesome.
appreciate you coming on so much today. I thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Awesome. Thanks so
All
much.
right.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day.
You too.